Japan, for some people, it's I hate Halloween. But why would some Japanese people hate a holiday that's so much fun and full of candy, scares, and sexy cat costume? Unlike America, where Halloween is an old part of the tradition and culture, Japanese are just starting to accept it. But just a few years ago, it was a mysterious holiday that caused a lot of trouble for many Japanese people. And in one unfortunate event, it was the holiday where a Japanese teenager lost his life. But before I talk about that, let's go back to the past to see how Halloween got started in Japan. The late 80s in Japan was a crazy place to be. The economy was roaring and Japan was at its peak. The idea of Made in America was becoming a joke.
Hi. Hey, look, Homer's got one of those robot cars.
One of those American robot cars.
Made in Japan became the new sign of quality. Toyotas and Hondas were starting to become the choice in automobiles. The Sony Walkman was tethered to every teenager's ears. And the Nintendo Entertainment System was hypnotizing America's children. There was so much money in Japan that in 1989, a Japanese company, Mitsubishi Estate, bought one of the New York's most important cultural centers, the Rockefeller Center. It seemed like Japan was ready to take over the entire world, and many people from Western countries made their way there to get a piece of pie. At the time, English teaching jobs were high demand, and many of them paid very well. With all that cash to be made, Japanese people worked really hard. And when work was over, they partied even harder. Yes, the 80s in Japan really did look like the opening scene in Yakuza 0. But deep underground, there was a party happening that Japanese people had never seen before and would quickly come to hate. The Yamanote Line is one of the most important train lines in Tokyo. It connects major areas like glamorous Ginza, the iconic Shibuya, and the weave heaven Akihabara together. It's one of the most crowded commuter trains in Japan. And even with all these people crammed inside, it's as quiet as a library. Except for one night out of the year, October 31st. In America, you guys would be celebrating it by trick-or-treating as a kid or joining a drunken costume party if you're an adult. But in 1980s Japan, the idea of Halloween didn't exist at all. For expats living in Japan, there was no bar or house party to celebrate it. So they took matters into their own hands and began holding them in one of the places that they shouldn't have, the Yamanote train. The organizers were always unknown, and the time, date, meeting spot was kept secret until days before October 31st. On the night of the event, badly costumed expats would cram into the train, booze and snacks in hand. What would normally be a slightly packed yet quiet ride become total chaos. The partiers would play music from the radios, eat and drink, jump around and shout the whole ride through. The party would start at a designated station, then they would move to a party to an entirely different train whenever they had to make a transfer or if the authorities got involved. It was one part party, one part running from the law, and one part breaking all social rules and customs in Japan. They would continue this train hopping party until they made it all the way around the loop and back at the starting station. While the 1-hour journey may have seemed to fly by for the partiers, it was an eternal hell for the local Japanese commuters. Some of the partiers probably thought they were just having innocent fun, but they were breaking a very important rule in Japanese society. 迷惑をかけない or don't bother others. It's one of the most important part of Japanese society, and I've talked about it in previous videos. It's the reason why Japanese morning train can be packed like this without everyone going crazy. Almost everyone in Japan is doing their best not to bother other people around them. The commuters on the train quickly made a connection between these parties and this mysterious holiday called Halloween. The parties were known as the Yamanote Halloween train, and because of it, Japanese people quickly began to have negative association with the holiday. But it wasn't just these wild train parties that would get Japanese people to really have a bad image of the October 31st celebration.
That proposal follows the shooting death of a 16-year-old Japanese exchange student last month in Louisiana. The teen arrived at the wrong house for a Halloween party. He apparently didn't understand the residents' warning to freeze and was shot and killed.
Yoshi Hattori was an exchange student in the US. He had an exciting chance to experience a real American Halloween. He and his host family's son, Wave Haymaker, were on their way to a house party that was being held for Japanese exchange students. On October 17, 1992, Yoshi and Wei mistakenly went to a wrong house, and when they knocked on the front door, there was no answer. Bonnie Pierce peeked out from her side door and quickly rushed back inside. She said she was frightened and very quickly her and her husband would cause Yoshi's death.
And before I realized it, I'd hollered for Rodney to get the gun.
Bonnie's fear was contagious.
It was terror. I could see this fear that I'd never seen before. And actually her telling me to go get the gun. I didn't ask any questions.
I'm here for the bat.
Yoshi, 戻ってこい!
Freeze!
911, what is your emergency? Yes, ma'am. My husband just shot someone. They came up to our door, and he told him to freeze, and he wouldn't, so he shot him. What is your name, ma'am? Bonnie Pierce. Lottie, don't go to the door. Ma'am, I'm sending the sheriff's office as well as an ambulance. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Because of Yoshi's lack of English ability, he wasn't able to understand Wave's pleas, nor was he able to understand Rodney Pierce's command. This case sparked a huge debate about gun laws and ownership, not only in the US, but in Japan as well.
7 days after my son's death, we began the petition drive for handgun control in the United States. Today, to Washington, D.C., we bring 1.7 million signatures collected in Japan. We started the petition because we love America just as Yoshi did.
If there was a Japanese person who hadn't heard about Halloween yet, they definitely did after this terrible event. So it's easy to see why Japanese at that time may have had negative associations with Halloween. Meanwhile, back in Japan, the Yamanote Halloween train parties were becoming bigger, crazier, and more out of control. The partiers broke common sense rules like not standing on the seats and not treating the upper stage area like a bed. Any semblance of peace and an order on the trains were completely destroyed on Halloween night. So you can imagine just how frustrated and angry the Japanese commuters felt. Also, I have to wonder how the conductors of the train felt as they were pressured to stay on the schedule but couldn't because of the drunk partiers running around in the trains. What about the train staff who had to clean up the puddles of alcohol, trash, and other mess that were left by the partiers? It became such a huge problem that even the police had to get involved to keep the crowds contained. Think about it, the worst place to party is on a busy train station platform, inches away from the tracks. I remember seeing stories on the news in the early 2000s about the parties. I've also heard that English teachers were told by their schools and companies that if they were caught at one of these Halloween parties, they will be fired immediately. Some Japanese even started protesting against the parties and against Halloween itself with sign that says, "We Japanese don't need Halloween."
What are you doing here? Get out of Japan! Get out of Japan!
But in the late 2000s, the image of Halloween in Japan started to change. I'm not exactly sure why, but if I had to guess, It probably had a lot to do with money. Many companies in Japan realized that they could make a ton of cash by selling Halloween-themed goods, costumes, etc. Around 2010 was when I remember seeing Halloween-themed snacks at the grocery store and even Halloween decorations and masks at 100 yen shop. As Japan started to embrace Halloween, the Yamanote Halloween train party started to die. But as the party underground was dying, it was just getting started above ground. Shibuya Crossing, the iconic street in Tokyo, was filled with Halloween spirit. This time, it wasn't only foreigners celebrating, but Japanese people as well. The whole area was flooded by partiers in costumes and drinks in hand. By 2015, Shibuya became the place to celebrate Halloween in Japan. But the same rowdy, break all the rules spirit of Yamanote Halloween train parties continues to live on in Shibuya. Every Halloween, the Tokyo police force to mobilize to patrol the Tokyo district. The streets are just so full of people every year that it makes it difficult to keep the roads clear. Remember, this isn't an official party held by the city, and the roads haven't been closed to cars. The police need to make sure they can get everyone off the street when emergency vehicles need to pass. Not only that, but with so many people gathered in one place, you're gonna find some super crazy weirdos. In 2018, a group of baka hentais went crazy and flipped a truck over for no reason. Then the truck's crazy boyfriend started making love to it in public.
Getting married to my pickup truck.
In 2019, the police arrested several people because they started groping random women openly on the street. If you are a woman in a crowd like this, it's almost impossible to catch the pervert who started touching you.
渋谷のとこになんかもうハロウィンのせいで治安が悪いイメージが東京の中で一番治安悪いイメージあるんで
わざわざ出かけてまでハッピーハロウィンってやろうかなとは思ってないですね。
ハロウィーンの日はどうですか？渋谷に行こうとは
ちょっと怖いですね。でもやっぱり。
Even in 2022, some Japanese people still have a negative image of Halloween. So this year, the Shibuya mayor is launching a new campaign to remind people to enjoy the holiday spirit, but to still follow the rules and laws. As part of the campaign, public drinking on the street will be prohibited from October 28th to November 1st. Also, convenience stores in the district are highly encouraged by the local government not to sell alcohol. As you can see, Shibuya is really trying hard not to only keep people safe, but to clean up the image of Halloween in Japan. Of course, not everyone sees Halloween negatively. It's still seen as a fun and light-hearted celebration full of pumpkins, ghosts, and other spooky things. Stores and shopping malls across Japan now hang these kind of decorations in October. Trust me, you wouldn't have seen this kind of stuff 10 years ago. Big theme parks like Universal Studios Japan hold a Halloween zombie night, where the staff dress up like the undead and scare the guests. Even Japan's public schools embrace the holiday by having special Halloween events. So, even though Halloween is still associated with this kind of negative, non-rule image, it now has more acceptance and celebrated image. Of course, it's not quite the same as it is in America. For example, in the US, trick-or-treating is a huge part of Halloween. I've only seen it in movies, but I wish I could have done this when I was a kid. I can't believe you guys can just get free candies from your neighbors. In Japan, we have trick-or-treating too, but it's not the same. Instead of collecting candies around neighborhood, many malls and theme parks will have a trick-or-treating event. To be honest, I think the American way is better, but Mr. It likes the Japanese way more. He told me when he was in America, he really wanted everyone to leave him alone on Halloween, so he started acting really crazy.
屌，嘈死我啊！係啊，OK à, coming 啊。What you want?
Trick or treat.
Oh, OK à, trick or treat 啊，trick or treat 啊。
I'm Spider-Woman.
Huh? Spider-Woman? Why you wanna be Spider-Woman 啊 ？Why don't you be businesswoman 啊
？Businesswomen don't have superpowers.
Don't have superpower? Businesswoman superpower by brand new Tesla.
Can I just have some candies?
Oh, okay, candy. Okay. Nah, happy Halloween.
What's that?
It's a pork fear. It's a more sweeter than candy.
I don't want that.
屌你咪搞錯啊 What you mean you don't want this? I take all day cook for you. Okay, you don't want this pork feet, then you give me your candy.
What?
You waste my time. Hurry up. Or I tell your ma you put PP in my coke. 快啲俾我啲糖啊 I take that full-size Snicker bar.
Another way Japanese Halloween is different is that we don't focus on too much the scary side. A lot of the decorations that you see are focused on being cute. But I'd say that these days we are finally starting to embrace the scary side of Halloween. This year at Universal Studios Japan, they have a Resident Evil themed escape room. Also, some taxis in Tokyo will have a special event based on the horror movie The Ring. When you hold your smartphone up to the TV in the car, Sadako will come out and curse you. But of course, these things are nothing compared to how scary you guys do in America. Some of you do really crazy and scary makeup. Not only that, you have the Field of Screams in Pennsylvania. This attraction looks like you're in a real-life horror movie. To be honest, I don't know if you could do this scary event in Japan. But even though Halloween isn't that scary here, there is one event that has traumatized many children across the country. The Oni Festival! These creepy monsters run around and scare all the kids in the area. But trust me, it's for a very good reason. I talk all about it in this video here, so make sure to check it out. Thanks for watching. Okini!
Happy Halloween 啦！快啲食啊！